We're back for another wonderful episode today. And I have Paul Sokolski. Did I say your last name right? Paul Sokolski. Did I say?
Perfectly. That was
I was
amazing.
like, dang, I was practicing. And then I'm like, was that right?
You
Well,
did it perfect.
there you go. I've got Paul in the house, and he is spectacular with a very unique message with his slants on how to have a magnificent life. Let me tell you a little bit about this amazing man. He's a spiritual transformation coach and the mind behind Redesign Your Inner Space. Paul has committed himself to guiding individuals toward a profound inner renewal. His philosophy: we are all born with the right to dream, create, and live our lives from a place of deep foundational peace. Yes, 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 yes. Now you can see why I have this amazing man on here who doesn't need or want or desire more peace and being able to manifest and feel great with their dreams. I'm so thrilled to have some time with you, Paul. Thank you.
And thank you for having me here. I'm so happy to be with your audience and you.
Yay! All right. Let me just start by saying, how did I even find Paul? Because I think that's kind of a cool story. We kind of do this often. Maybe I took it to the next level. I saw him on Facebook. I saw you, Paul, posting some amazing, beautiful, powerful messages so authentically, so from the heart on Facebook. And I just thought, ooh, I want to meet this man and I want him on my podcast. Ooh, maybe. And he graciously said yes. So I'm thrilled. But that's how I met him. Awesome. So you have an interesting journey. Like, you have been supporting people in transforming their inner landscape in their homes as and enhancing their design inside their homes. And you focus now on shifting people's inner landscape. I love the metaphor and the actual shift that you've had. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that happens and how it happened for you, and where you're at with this type of work now?
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey. I've always loved, I went to school for, actually, I started my degree in interior design out of high school. And I didn't really know, I kind of knew I was going somewhere. I didn't have the insight, and I wasn't spiritual at that time of my life, but there was a driving force to get me to where I am today. And there was something about me walking into a space and feeling the energy of color and furniture and just the placement of the room. And it was so interesting. I would have people hire me, even if it was just as simple as going in and changing color in someone's house. And I would be like, and I would always say this, and it was true. I wasn't like giving them BS. I'd be like, just so you know, be prepared, because when I walk out of your home, this place is going to sell like there's no tomorrow. Like, literally, all the places I walk into sell within a couple of weeks. And it literally, not every time, but I would say almost every time
Wow.
these properties would sell. And so I really I feel a lot. I feel more than I can articulate at times. And so I would come into these spaces and I would feel, and I probably for the last 2.5 decades, and I've been self-made since I was 19. I started this company, and I was plowing along really strong and built a, big company with a lot of people working for me. And then that was back when I lived in upstate New York, and I moved here to Florida, to Key Biscayne, Florida, back in 2004. And that's kind of where my life shifted. There was a lot going on. I was just going through a divorce, and my grandfather had passed away, and a lot of big shifts that we go through in our lives. And that kind of brought me to a place where I kind of hit the ground, in the sense where that was my actual wake-up call to take my inward journey. And from that place, I went on to spend a month with monks in India, and just, it was not on my bucket list. I wasn't like, I want to get on in the personal development space and get on stages, and it just unfolded for me. And I remember my first big event that I was speaking at, and there's a lot of fill-in parts, but I'll just keep it short. And I'm flying on the plane, and this woman's like, I'm doing like something on my computer, and she's like, she was talking to me, and she's like, so what do you do? And I was telling her about, showing her my pictures from this project that I just finished in the Middle East. That was a huge palace I did for a sheikh in Saudi Arabia. It was a 100,000 square foot palace that I decorated for him. And she's like, oh my God. And then I'm telling her about, I'm going to this, I'm speaking at this event, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you know what? She goes, you actually went from interior decorating homes to interior decorating hearts.
I goosebumps, like just that moment of like,
and that so hit me. And it was like this amazing metaphor, because at the time I was just trying to figure out the messaging and, kind of put it all together. And it was such a beautiful metaphor because, you go into someone's home and your space represents your personality, it represents who you are, your beliefs, all these parts and pieces of you. And so, that's really important. And your home is your most precious, valuable gift, right? Well, my realization beyond that point was our greatest, gift is ourselves. And so
which is our home, our hearts, our being,
our home within.
Yeah.
And so it was like this, it was just, everything just kind of, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where all of a sudden you just download all of this stuff. And that's really what happened for me. It was this massive download. And I was actually seeing what was coming forth in my future. Like I was in the unified field of nothing, but yet everything was downloading for me and I was seeing it all.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful for me. And I realized that this was the message for me, to really help people and bring them back to a place of simplicity. Bring them on a journey back to simplicity. And I don't mean simplicity in a sense where we sell all of our things. No, I mean to separate ourselves from the mind and the body for a moment, to quiet down the analytical mind, and to take a journey within, and to tap into the parts of us that we need to redesign, in a sense, where we need to go in and kind of take some things out and put some new things in. And there's steps and ways to do that. So it was a great connection and transition. Although I still do both, it's a great transition from one to the other, and they work so well together. So that's kind of where that all morphed from.
I love that. I so love that. And as you were sharing, I was thinking, the simplicity part, how we clean out our closets and, the whole spring cleaning, or do we really need all this clutter, making our environment so much more crisp and inviting. And we don't necessarily take that time to do that with ourselves, to slow down. As you know, I'm about to go on a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat, and hours of meditation of just being, just in the simple breath of the moment, and allowing myself to go, oh, wow. Yeah. Quieting that mind. I want to piggyback on something you said where, you built this business. It wasn't necessarily a spiritual path. You were called to do this. And then you had this moment with this woman and things shifted for you. How has this shift of metaphor of helping people on this journey affected you in your personal life?
Hugely, because I came to the realization of it's not what we do in our lives, but rather who we become.
Yeah.
And the becoming that made me who I am today was relationships. And I've been blessed. And I apparently I signed up for this, but I've been in enough relationships in my life with women to learn the gift of who I am. And these beautiful women taught me, and I wouldn't have been having this conversation with you back then because I was in a victim mentality. I was, I needed a lot of redesigning of my inner space at that point in my life. But it really brought me to a realization and understanding about, relationships. And no matter what you do in your life, the person you spend the most time with is yourself. Yeah. And in between relationships, as you do this inner work on yourself, and you, as I did in between the relationships that I was in and out of, that the growth that you've accomplished when you put yourself back into a relationship.
Oh yeah.
because all the things come back up for you. So no matter what age you're at, and I know your audience are women looking to find their love, and I'm here to tell you that they're there, that we're here for you, like the men are there, and it's really it really comes down to the question of what I asked myself: am I worthy of a relationship? And that had to start from me, because I realized through these beautiful relationships that there was this gap in my life. And I put that gap, that expectation on the woman I was with,
Yeah.
because I didn't realize that parts of me at the time were codependent in relationships. Parts of me were insecure, parts of me, and all of these parts of us. But these greatest parts taught me who I'm not. And so it's really developing a relationship with yourself. And I actually did my very first retreat about 4 years ago was on how to build the most beautiful relationship with you. And it was just so inspiring to just bring people in. And it's like, yeah, we all want to attract our partner, and being in relationships is absolutely beautiful. But if you're not clear first and within yourself, and clear in the energy within yourself, you just kind of carry that into the next relationship. And in certain ways, for myself, I can speak for, and the clients I've worked with, we mask those parts of us that we don't want to face. And then they just come back up again, and they keep resurfacing and resurfacing. So to answer your question, really, it was that transformation really helped me to learn the most valuable gift, and that's knowing who I am.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
And yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, there's so much power to that for anybody, man or woman, to know who you are, because we give so much of ourselves away. And I hear this conversation more than ever, and my hand is raised. I've said it myself. Oh, my heart was broken. But you know what I realized? My heart wasn't broken. I betrayed myself.
Ooh, yeah.
And self-betrayal is the worst thing, because I can guarantee you that anybody that I talk to, and even in my past relationships, when you call whatever color that flag was that popped up, that you kept going. Like you ignored that. And there's a voice inside of you that told you, hey, maybe you should think twice about this. And so when you build this relationship with yourself, when you redesign the inner space, when you get clear about the voices in your head that are lies, and you really tune into the true essence of who we are, this love and this beingness and this experience to being this beautiful vessel that takes us through this life. When you learn the relationship with that inner self, the difference is night and day. And that was really the catapult to getting into the personal development space and to transitioning into all of this
Mm.
stuff.
That's why I have you here. Absolutely boom, baby. Because I created Midlife Love Out Loud, not to help people with better dating strategies. Yes, I bring on people with dating strategies. I see that as the cart before the horse, because if they haven't spent the time really unpacking and learning and reflecting on past relationships, where did they give themselves away? Where weren't they being truthful? Where were they wearing a mask? It just keeps happening in the next relationship and the next relationship. And I always say, date yourself, find your inner soulmate, know who you are so deeply, so that when you do invite that next person in, you're going to another whole level of a relationship. And you can't do that if you don't take the time to really come home to your heart and to really do this work. So I love this. I know you wrote a book and it's called The 4 F's. I really want to get into the 4 F's. Are you willing to kind of take us through that?
Yeah. I mean, we'll just hit one, because I know we have limited time, so
Sure,
we may
sure.
do it on another call. But
And they can also get your book.
and they can get the book. Yes, absolutely. The 4 F's was, again, it was one of my nightly walks I would do on the beach in Key Biscayne, and I just was looking for answers to kind of simplify what I did, and it just came to me. And the 4 F's is really based on what I teach, based on my life experiences. And I think that's the greatest value and gift you can give to somebody. It's not something I took from a book, or it's real live experiences in my life.
Yeah.
And foundation, forgiveness, faith, and frequency. Those are the 4 F's. And I really want to just kind of hone in today on forgiveness, because I think around relationships, that's one of the biggest things that comes up for most men and women. My
I
hand is
agree.
raised.
Yeah.
And so, and what I teach in forgiveness is not the traditional sense of forgiveness where you did something to me, but I teach more on the aspect in the new kind of a different perspective of, I call it awakened forgiveness, where your higher self brought on this experience for you to learn and to grow and to, you know, and it's not about agreeing with what happened. Because I've worked with women who've been, you know, unfortunately, who've been raped, who've been sexually abused, physically abused, in all aspects. So this is not about, you know, accepting this. This is not about, you know, agreeing with what happened, but it's more an acceptance. Because what happens is we hold on to this guilt, we hold on to this pain, we hold on to this trauma. And it's understandable because most of us aren't taught how to release this or to let it go. And so we hold on to this, and then we don't really have an opportunity. And I know this is hard for some people to hear this, but I will guarantee you that with the right questions and the right person, you can extract the most beautiful gifts out of the experience that you had, no matter how traumatic it was. And that takes a while to get there, but that's what it is. It's like this knowing this, okay, what this experience happened for me. And we could tie this into like faith and what your belief is, because it really depends on what you believe. So if you believe you're the creator, if you believe you're creation and you are the creator, well, then you're creating your life. Well, most people believe that, but then they're like, well, but I didn't create this shit, you know?
Yeah,
It's
right.
like,
He did this to me,
yeah,
that
right,
asshole.
right,
You know?
right.
Yeah.
And so your conversation changes around forgiveness when you look at it from a perspective of this was for me. This was some lesson.
Yeah.
Again, back to, if you jump to faith really quick and say, what's my belief? I believe that, and do I know this is true? I don't know that this is true. I don't know that anybody knows that this is true, but I feel that it's true.
Yeah. It's a
And
belief, and you know, and you feel it. You feel it. Yeah, I get
yeah,
it.
we signed up for this. Like we signed up for experiences and the people we were going to experience it with. And so it kind of gives an easier transition from leaving that hardness and kind of just surrendering to the fact that, okay, I'm at a point in my life where I can't live this way anymore. Like I can't continue to go on to be by myself, but I also can't go on to sabotage relationships because I'm bringing my past into this person, and I'm actually punishing this person for what happened in my past, not even realizing I'm doing it.
Right.
And so forgiving yourself and releasing that energy, surrendering to a new beginning, surrendering to a new way, to really sit down, and I do this with my clients, sit down and extract the gifts that you, like I mentioned earlier, that I received through this experience. You know, I learned to love myself. I learned my worthiness. I learned that when the red flags come, that I stand up for myself and I walk away, or I know how to say no. I'm not going to put myself in a situation that's going to be dangerous for myself or unhealthy or whatever that looks like. So forgiving yourself is such a huge release of energy.
And empowering, because now we're able to look at what happened and have a different way of using that energy. I mean, I think about when my dad died, for decades, it was, God did this to me. I broke up with God, you know, and this happened to me. My dad was ripped out of my life, and now I can't trust people, and, you know, all those things. And then when I started doing the deeper inner work, I still am not happy that my dad died, and it was very sad and tragic in so many ways. And now I'm able to go, I learned love in the most beautiful way, grace in the most beautiful way. I had the privilege of having this man for the first 14 years of my life. You know, I was able to shift it instead of hanging my hat on, I got dealt a bad hand, versus there was a silver lining, so to speak. And so it's a yes and. For anybody that's like, you know, but what, this happened to me, there's kind of a choice point here, right? It's like, well, we can hang our hat on going, but this sucked, and I have to be really, really careful to never have this happen again. Or this happened, what did I learn, and how can I do it differently now because of what I experienced? It's just a whole different vibe that we can choose on some level if we can see it like this. And I know people can struggle with this sometimes.
Absolutely. It's tough. And, you know, the other thing it opens up to is, I'm sure you'll agree with me, I'm not asking you to, but, you know, communication is the biggest factor in relationships. And most people don't know how to ask for what they want.
Yeah.
And to be able to ask for what you want, you have to know what that is. But even before that, you have to feel worthy to be able to do so. So a lot of times,
to receive it, people are afraid to ask because they've learned that their needs don't matter, or they didn't get their
correct,
needs met from other relationships. So
right?
there's lots of nuances there.
Or when their needs get met, it's always in a traumatic way, right? So
Yeah.
their needs are being met in a way that always seems to continue to be the same cycle. And that falls back into, if you want to throw frequency into it, one of the last F, it's like, okay, how am I showing up? Like, am I congruent with the desire that I have of what I want? Am I also congruent with the way I'm showing up to that? And so there's all these components and all these parts. But I think even though foundation is the first F, and I kind of talk about foundation and the way we grew up in our lives and our environment, and the way your parents were around the house really makes a huge difference and impact on the way you show up in relationships. But really, forgiveness, I think, is if the majority and the biggest part of my work with people is around forgiveness and self-love, trying to get them to a point to kind of let go, because unfortunately, and many times we don't realize this, but there's some certainty in continuing to show up the same way,
Yeah.
because obviously it's a known, the subconscious is running 95% of the program. So, you don't even realize this is an automatic autopilot that's continuing to go on, not to mention the fact you pull into the generational aspect of the habitual patterns that we do,
Yes.
right? So then you got all these strikes against you. But in forgiveness and clearing this, there comes a moment where you have this sense of clarity. I mean, deep clarity, and your heart opens. And that's the moment where, like you said, I have a choice now. Man, this feels so good. Like,
Yeah.
this feels so incredible. And I want more of this. And I'm going to let this go now. And it's like peeling back the onion, right? You peel
Yeah.
layers back, and it's not like
Yeah.
a one-time hit, one meditation fixes it all, but it's repetition and consistency, repetition and consistency.
Yeah, we need
And
to build those new neural pathways. We need to get stronger with feeling the vibe of yes and aliveness and what's possible versus the contraction of life is hard, or all the beliefs and all the baggage that we've been holding on to. And
yeah.
you're sharing so many golden nuggets here, and I'm curious, where might you, what is there a tip or a first step you might offer to this person that's listening going, well, this is all great, get out of my head into my heart, keep things simple, forgive? Is there one like first dip your toe for someone to start moving in that direction?
For forgiveness, yeah.
Yeah.
Learn to be vulnerable.
How do you do that? I mean,
Vulnerability is like,
my way, but
right,
what do you
right.
say?
Vulnerability is like really, really first with yourself. So if you
Yeah.
like here's a great exercise that I have my clients do. Look in the mirror, look at yourself, talk to yourself, and pay attention to your body language. Pay attention to the way you're moving. Are you looking away from yourself when you're saying, I love you? You're so incredible. Like, and you may not believe it, or you're trying to work toward that believing, but that vulnerability starts to show you the parts of you that you need to work on. That's the one step. You could take it
Yeah.
to the next step, which is you stand in front of the mirror completely naked. And that's a whole nother experience for people,
Yeah.
because now they're stripped of everything. Right. So vulnerability, being vulnerable, number one. Number two is just like, man, just give yourself a break for a moment. Like, sit down for a moment and just give yourself a break. And I like to write down all the things that I appreciate in my life. Just start by all the things that I appreciate, because that kind of changes your energy and your frequency and where you're at. And then just take a moment to just start looking at the things. How are these things about what I'm holding on to around forgiveness? How are they affecting me in my life? Because at some point, when you can really get to a place of silence, where, like, I spent weeks in silence in India. Like, that was the biggest gift I could ever receive, because, you just start listening to what's playing on a daily
Yeah.
basis. And so, get clear with yourself about, do I want to continue to live my life this way?
to play that tape that we have been playing every day for decades and decades and decades. And until you quiet down, you may
Right.
not hear the things that you're saying to yourself or thinking, and you tend to say and think the same things every day, which means we're creating the same reality every day because we're not changing things up.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally. And
yeah.
the biggest thing really quick is biggest, most important thing is just the most important question is, am I willing and ready to let this go? Because a lot of people
Yeah.
are not ready to do that. And that's where that challenge comes, because they're fighting a stealth monster that they don't even know is there.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to want to let go and to want to move on. And I'm not saying that that's easy by all means, no. But if you're willing to do that, there's work ahead of you. It's not a simple fix, but there's work ahead of you. And if you have the right person, whether it's a coach like us or it's a, whatever that is for you. I mean, I always recommend somebody who knows what they're doing. Of course, friends are great, but they're not always the best help. But in any event, like really get clear about that, because that's going to
Yeah.
help you to really, set the intention forward to, getting out of the muck that you continue to keep yourself in.
And I think it's important to realize that you're in the muck. I think that's the first place, is like, I'm not enjoying where I'm at, how I'm feeling, how I'm relating to other people. And even just that one exercise, looking in the mirror and telling yourself you love yourself and looking in your eyes and taking some breaths, notice if there's resistance,
Yeah.
notice if it's uncomfortable or you get itchy or you're like, there's like so much I want to do about this. That in itself gives people information that there's some loving and releasing and support that they need. And I love that you said about this work. It's layers, and you don't have to jump off a cliff. I know a lot of people, when I talk to them, it's like, oh, shadow work, because I do the shadow work where we're really unpacking the past and looking at things so that they can feel better. It's that, what did you call it? I call it the monster under the bed. What did you call it? The transformer, or what did you call it?
I don't
Do you
remember now.
remember?
I'm
Some
downloading some.
Megatron, or I don't know, it was something
Yeah.
you said. Until we face it, it's running us.
Yeah.
And how is it affecting us? And so we don't have to slay the dragon in one fell
Right.
swoop. But if we know there's a dragon in the room,
Yeah.
just looking at it, we could take step by step.
Sure.
People think they have to jump off a cliff and do this scary, scary work. What's scary is not knowing what's under the bed. And when you
Yeah.
put the lights on and you look under the bed, you're like, oh, it's really not as bad as I thought. It was
Right.
not knowing that was way more
Yeah.
painful.
Yeah. And the other thing, when you see yourself in the mirror, and it's hard for a lot of people, but you're seeing the reflection of you and how you portray yourself to others through your body
Yeah.
language. And what the body's telling you is, those are all the parts of you that the guilt and the trauma and the resentment and all those things
Yeah.
are in your body, and you're seeing that. So it's like, and you're not realizing, of course, our desire is to be with somebody and to meet somebody, but it's like, it's ridding that stuff to really get a clear path for you to connect with and to manifest and attract that lover in your life, that's also done the work and or is on the same path as you, and you've done enough work. It's not to say that you're not going to run into challenges, because I don't care how much of this work you do, we're going to, but it's how you deal with them. So
Yeah.
you're more aware when you do this inner work. You're more aware, you're more observant. You come from a perspective of, I'm observing this vessel and how it's showing up and how it's acting, and you have the choice then to change whatever it is that you're doing, or it's like, oh wow, there's that thing I'm doing again, or notice it's like the work that I've done in these last 2 decades. There's like no back door. Like, I know
Oh yeah.
it's only forward for me. Like, there's no more victim and this
Yeah.
person said this and that person did that. So this forgiveness and these steps that I'm giving you were actually things that I did for myself.
Yeah.
And it was like, one day I was literally walking by the mirror and I just stopped and I kind of went back and I looked at myself in the mirror, and it was like, I realized how much my eyes were moving in this. I'm saying, well, how much am I actually paying attention to her when she's talking to me? Am I really listening to
Mm.
her? Like, am I really giving her my full attention? Because I couldn't give myself my full attention.
Wow.
Am I really loving her, or am I looking for a way to fill the gap because I don't know how to love myself?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
these were all parts of me that I could see in myself through my body language and my actions.
Beautiful. So, so beautiful. So, you have a special gift for this soul sister of mine that's listening. Can you share a little bit about it? Because it's pretty darn awesome.
Yeah, so I would love to just provide a you know a meetup session. I call it strategy session, but it's just a way to kind of help someone through a conversation of where they are in their lives. If it's just to share a beautiful story, or if they're stuck somewhere, or if they're looking for love and want to have some insight, whatever that looks like. It's a little bit of time with me to kind of get to know you more and see if there's a way that I can help, or be of service in some way.
Beautiful. That's such a beautiful gift. And time with you is precious, especially one on one. So definitely check out the link in the show notes and reach out to him for a session. Any last words for this woman about manifesting, magnetizing midlife love?
Yeah, keep going, ladies, and fall in love with yourself. I mean, the inner
Yeah.
work is so worth the result at the end of that. And it's a process. It's a continuing process. The work continues to go on. Love yourself. And I guarantee you that man will show up that loves you as much as you love yourself. Will meet you where you are. Don't give up. Never quit, because this life is so precious. And whether we're in a relationship or not, we're always in a relationship with ourselves, and that's the best and the most beautiful relationship you can definitely work on is with yourself.
Ah, so good. Thank you for your time, Paul. Really beautiful. Beautiful that you shared your journey and what's possible when you do wake up and start cleaning house, inside house. Ah, beautiful. All right, soul sister, that's our episode for today, this week. And I hope you took some notes. I hope you take some time to really love up on yourself. And until we meet again, mwah. One more thing before you go. Have you taken my Discover Your Love Avatar quiz? It's a 2-minute quiz that can help you not only know your strengths, your superpower, because you have one, also identify some of your blind spots, some of the things that might be having you in your fear, having you behaving in ways that aren't in alignment with your highest self, the way you want to be when it comes to dating and relationships. And it'll also help you discover why maybe the stars haven't lined up for you yet. Bottom line is, you take this 2-minute quiz, you get a full report in your email with details on how to move forward in next level love, whether you want a partner or not. So you can go to midlifeloveoutloud.com/love quiz. The link is in the show notes as well. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the station, I'm going to encourage you to do that too, so you don't miss any episodes. And I hope you got a ton out of today's. See you next week. Mwah.